Rejected Stone Productions presents to one and all the Rejected Stone Podcast. Real talk about real issues in real time. Your hosts for this Rejected Stone experience, Dr. Zebulon Maletsky and Dr. Jarvis Watson. Tuwende, let's begin.
Welcome everybody to another edition of the Rejected Stone Podcast. This is where we have real talk about real issues in real time. And once again, my name is Dr. Jarvis Watson. I am one half of the Rejected Stone Productions, which is flanked by my brother, Dr. Zebulon Maletsky. How you doing, my friend? It's been a minute.
Yes. It's good to be back. Good to be with you, and good to be with all our folks and our people out there.
Yeah, man. It's been a lot of stuff been happening in today's society that we really want to make sure we take some time to kind of reflect on. But we want to make sure that we do the check-in with each other also, because like I said, this life we're living right now is, every week is full of something interesting. And we want to make sure that we provide some time and space for us to kind of like, hey, never would have made it. I think you had said that before we got on our pre-production meeting that we talked about. So if there's something that you're grateful for, brother, let's start off with that. Let's talk about this being grateful. Anything that you want to start with?
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, as we contemplate this idea about talking about vaccine stories, we have some information to share. We have stories of our own and stories that we've all heard. This is something that we're all going through, and so I am, still grateful to really just to be alive, to see 2021. I'm still there. I haven't even moved past that since January, and but I, and at the same time, we have moved on, and we've moved into different kinds of territories, some which are quite complicated. And so I hope that, in our discussion tonight, we'll be able to, try to get at some of those complications. But I'm just grateful. I am grateful right now to be in dialogue with you, my brother, in a way that I probably can't fully express. It's a joy. And it's an opportunity to be in dialogue, as we do together with someone who I know that, I know the information that you've gathered and some of the things you've shared with me, just in terms of where we stand. Where do we stand in this effort to vaccinate as many as possible, to bring about herd immunity, to bring some justice to our communities. That's kind of like what I'm so grateful for, is this chance to dialogue about that tonight.
Yeah. This I would like to echo that because of the fact that I just got vaccinated like last week, at least my first dose. And thank you. And to know that I'm also flanked by another wonderful individual, my wife, who's making sure that my health is at the forefront. So I'm grateful to have that great partner next to me. And I hope she's listening, so I make sure I give her that praise. Yes. But to know that she's going through the process also helps us to sustain our legacy. That our parents and our parents before us wanted to make sure that we had everything a lot better than what they had to go through. And I'm thinking that they may have had to go through smallpox and measles and, some things that we take for granted right now. Like, oh, those things are major. Like now this is our kind of pandemic, epidemic that we're building community around, being intentional about the time we spend with each other, being intentional about the time we don't spend with each other, which has also caused some aspects of praise and being grateful because of the fact that hopefully there'll be one day for the ones we haven't been in contact with, we'll be able to connect with them pretty soon. So really taking advantage of reaching back out to folk and people picking up the phone and knowing that they're okay. If they're not okay, at least they know someone is reaching out to them to know that it's going to be all right. So I'm really grateful to the fact that, there's a few that I can still, reach out to. But, and it's unfortunate too that For those, there's some that actually have to go away this weekend to pay homage and pay my respects to a good friend of mine who passed away. I'm not sure exactly all the issues, but but to know that there was somebody that was out there that was doing things for the right reasons, and the way that he's getting the love right now is really amazing. How many lives he's touched, and I just want to be able to, like I said, stay healthy to make sure that I can be just a piece of what he was. And this is my brother, Kenneth M. Armwood. So for those that are listening, for all those in Piscataway, much love to him and his family, and all those who loved him. So grateful for his life, grateful for the things that he's done. So just mad enough respect to that. Now to make sure I put that on video and record that. So yeah.
No, on everything. Much respect and love to the families, and
yeah.
And I find myself, I think we are all doing that lately, sending comfort, sending encouragement. May you be comforted at this time. May you, I almost want to say to people, I hope someone's bringing you a plate. I hope you are being taken care of in your time, because what we're learning is that a lot of the folks who survive, there is such a thing as survivor's guilt. There's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Some of our guests in the past have been experts on this, and we'll certainly look to bring in some of those voices on as we go forward to really educate us in the right way about it. But I know there's such a thing as survivor's guilt, and I know that there is also a lot of feelings of all kinds of feelings that come up during a time like this, just in a pandemic, and even at all. So that's normal. And I think we should all, think about that, too, as a chance to, as we do that mental health check-in, as we continue to check in with our brothers and sisters. We're doing more of that. I think that's kind of the sign of the times.
Yeah, man. It's I think it's really reflective of, what are you doing with the time that you have? Really coming back to, I think I'm quoting Mos Def, Yasin Bey every
hey, nothing wrong with that right now.
Every episode that we have, but he's saying tomorrow may never come. For you and me, life is not promised, and this is an aspect of taking every advantage that you have to shine your light on the world. So Umi says, Mama says, I want to be able to take that adage. Let us make sure that what we're doing is not in vain, and you're not just wasting these precious moments and precious breaths that we have to not just hold up space, but to make a difference in the lives of those that we love, and people, even the ones that we don't see, but we still got love for. So a lot of things that we're doing even today is like spreading that message of take time to to reflect, but also take time to breathe and stop and make sure that when you move forward, there's something that you are intentionally doing to make someone's life better. So yeah, man. So no. So that's
it's a lot to say, I love that. Yeah, Umi says, you know what I mean? My Umi says, but shine your light in the world. And a lot of wisdom there in that thing called hip hop. Some of us who grew up listening to songs like that felt, we're told to think there's not too much to really retain from that kind of thing. And time has obviously proven that that's part of our way of coping, way of dealing in the vernacular, in the culture.
Yeah. And shout out to hip hop, who has I think have saved so many lives, and what they're doing. So and that's all hip hop. I'm not trying to just. I'm a '90s guy, so it's always been that. '90s hip hop is real hip hop. Like now, it's all hip hop. Any way that you can express yourself freely, that's love right there. So I just want to make sure that's an intergenerational message to what we're doing with that. This art form that we have called hip hop. But let's get right into the convo about the vaccine stories, vaccine chronicles, vaccine narratives. So I know just to kind of give people an understanding of where we are, what our vaccine, I just went on to the New York State website for COVID updates, and this is COVID 19-vaccine.health.ny.gov/COVID-19-vaccine-tracker. And at this point, we have about 6 million plus who have at least one vaccine dose. And we have at least a little bit close to, this is 3,900,000 individuals who have completed the whole vaccine series. So it seems like there's a lot more people getting the vaccine, whether it be, I guess, Pfizer or Moderna. I'm not exactly sure what's happening with the J&J, the Johnson & Johnson situation. They had some issues, but it seems like a lot more people getting vaccinated. And I'm not sure like what you saw when you went to your particular site, but where I went to, I think the thing that was interesting was and this is one of the chronicles that I'll share, like what I've seen as far as people welcoming me in. I had my Knicks hat on, and it was just like, "You're a Knicks fan? Oh man, come on in here!" I was like, "Oh, I'm in the right spot." Okay, a lot of love, and people really being patient with you, and really making sure that you had everything you had, and went to the next spot, and somebody was like, "Okay, you got everything you need. Okay, cool, great, all right, follow those lines." I was like, "Oh, this is nice." Went to the next spot. Guy saw another Knicks fan. He was like, "Hey man, you a Knicks fan? Oh man." We were talking about, all the things about the Knicks actually having a winning season, which is like rare. And before you know it, there was a needle in my arm, which goes all the way to your bone. And but that pain was just almost like, okay, once again, I'm going through the same kind of legacy that a number of people have gone through in regards to sustaining their health, and being really grateful for the fact that I have health insurance that provided me the opportunity to kind of walk right in. And then you have this area where you sit down 15 minutes later, 15 minutes just for someone to observe you to make sure you don't have any adverse reactions. And then, and then you just kind of like sit back and think like, okay, what I got to do today? Okay, everything's good. But you look around, and the thing that stood out to me was, and I know this is based off geographic location where you are, but I didn't see a lot of faces that looked like mine. It wasn't a lot of, I would say, diversity in the room in regards to where I was. And I'm thinking, is this something similar to what we see across New York? I'm just standing within this region, and made me think about all those people who aren't inside, or maybe I didn't see. Are they getting the same type of treatment, the same type of access, the same type of awareness that I received? And like I said, luckily my wife is a public health advocate, and as well as analyst, and she was making sure that her husband got his shots.
Yes.
And like I said, once again, just grateful for her being in my life, but that emphasis of making sure you go ahead and follow through, and then also her taking care of her father and everything like that. So that's my privilege that I have. And what I'm thinking is, the conversation maybe we're having today is helping people understand, does everybody have that same type of experience? Does everybody have that same type of access? Does everybody have that same type of ease to jump on a computer or call somebody on the phone and have this conversation where you're able to move through without your Wi-Fi dropping, without you getting stopped, along the way through the process, and having a sense of like ease moving into actually even being able to be blessed with some transportation to drive from my house to that location to make sure that I'll be able to get there without worrying about catching the bus or being late and things like that. So I'll just really kind of think about what's that conversation going on with other folks regarding their ability to get to that particular site or go through the process. Yeah.
No, that absolutely makes sense. And I think, I am seeing similar things. I also got my vaccine shot, my first shot. Thank you. I hope you can hear me. I had to make a quick change with the headphones.
No, you're good. Come on, loud and clear.
Oh, good. Thank you. I think I was getting a little feedback. I apologize for that. So, I had my first vaccine shot. It was at a CVS right there in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn. And, I couldn't help but to remark on the humanity of the moment, the generosity and the warmth, quite frankly. I think if I had my Red Sox hat on, I had something over it. just in case, because you don't want to like, but people, well, opposite side of that coin. Not the day for me at least, to rep my hometown team with respect. But people, even despite that, I joke, everybody was so nice. People were friendly, at least, it's true. It's true what I had been hearing, that if you're around towards the end of the process, you can get sometimes, they have leftover vials and stuff that they will, when someone comes to you and says, "Hey, would you like the COVID vaccine?" They're handing you life.
Man,
you know what I'm saying? And I teared up when I got the shot. I am not gonna front. I was touched. Maybe it hurt a little bit, but that wasn't the reason. I was really, and it doesn't hurt, y'all. By the way, not feels a lot like the flu shot, but I felt caught up in a moment, and I realized, that was a big thing. So that everyone's got a different story, but that got to go back to the second shot still. So to be continued at a different CVS.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It does come with a little bit of a pinch. I ain't gonna lie. I was just like, okay, I'm not going to look good. I'm not going to, dwell on what's going on in my arm. But yeah, it was definitely a sense of like emotions that came over, because, like I said, it's like I don't have to have another type of apprehension like I used to before, just in all disclosure, having a comorbidity that they talk about, increases your chances of either getting the virus, or when you get the virus, that it has some more adverse effects based off of how severe you have that condition. So, that was one thing I was always concerned about. And I don't care who you are, when you are faced with some of these decisions, as much as you try to cover up that it's not affecting you, it does. It does affect your sleep. It does affect how you go about doing your business and your work, and how you interact with other folks, because there's always this fear of, if I stand too close, if I back away, if I cough, is that COVID? Am I starting to have that? And I think also, I think even hearing some of these webinars, there's still this sense of shame, in the same way that people were having this sense of shame with having HIV. It's like, oh, you got the COVID, I don't know if I want to be around you. And it's like, no, that's not how it, you want to keep your distance and caution, but you don't want to make people feel like, they have the bubonic plague, and they're not worthy of communicating or even giving some love or some prayers for. And I've seen that with certain folk. And for those who did have it, and I'm glad for those who got through the storm, God bless, have these adverse effects. Another vaccine story. There's a good friend of mine talked about, she went through COVID, kind of went on the other side, but her body's being affected, and making sure she takes the proper steps to go through. And once again, having the health insurance, being able to see a specialist to make sure that things are going the way they should, and are things working properly in her body. And I think that's just a proactive, and making sure you take care of your health, not just kind of like, I'm just going to take a shot of whiskey or tuna's beef jerky, then I'm good to go. Getting away from this I'm good kind of mentality. She said, no, I got the resources. I got a few daughters. I have a husband. Now I got to make sure that, once again, my legacy is tight. And that once again, she had the resources as well as the means to get to the place where she had to go. I think about 20 or 30 minutes away from her home. But that 20 or 30 minutes, that gas she spent, was definitely worth it, because now she knows love. She's more aware of what's happening. And I think that awareness is something that I think a lot of people still, I'm not sure if you're hearing about, still people being apprehensive about that, which is my first point. Is that going toward people not getting the access, or people being aware still, but saying, based off of, my perceptions of getting a vaccine, that's not going to be me, so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that I'm good. That's a breakthrough right there. The I'm good thing. And I have never really quite heard it put that way.
Mm-hmm.
But that is right on, my brother, because that's a cultural thing, isn't it? That's something that
Mm,
some of us folk do. And wow, wow.
yeah, yeah. I think in research we have something called, at least for brothers, called cool pose. So it's like this facade of like everything's going all right, but on the inside, things are kind of like a roller coaster. Things a little bit more tumultuous. Things are definitely not all right.
Oh, my
And
soul is crying out. Listen, hey, oh man.
Man, am I speaking? Am I speaking truth? Am I hitting the nerve, brother?
My dungeon just shook. I
don't know, for those that are listening or even watching, there was a pause, and this brother, I just got to dropped a word on him.
But this grab a book.
Yeah, man. This is the time. Yeah. Oh my gosh, man, you can stop right there. That's like 2 or 3 different series of volumes of Rejected Stone. Oh, what you got there?
Well, I don't know, it's probably not going to show up, but I'm looking at Notes of a Native Son. And I believe it's this one. And he says that, his dungeon shook, in terms of some of the things that were happening, at that time in the 1960s. And I'm sure somebody will call in if I don't have that reference right. But when you said that, that really just taps into something so important, that cool pose. And the literature is out there for folk, who may want to look up that some of that work. And
while you're talking,
a great deal about it, probably a lot, but a lot more than I do about that one, because, but what we both know is the lived experience of it. And I want to back up the literature and add a personal touch to it. That's real. That whole thing is real. The way we feel and the way we deal with each other when we see one another, in the community and stuff. And that's something else that really has to be checked. We need to be about peace. We need to be about reconciliation. We need to be about finding ways, if the UN can figure out how to ease tensions between nations, we ought to be able to figure out how to ease some tensions in our nation, in our community, because things heat up very quickly. And so but that cool pose thing is big. And I know some of the I know that Sut Jali, for example, who is an amazing filmmaker and media education foundation is his thing, and does a lot of real interesting work in terms of critiquing media and stuff. And a lot of that, I remember, that cool post stuff comes from media. We see it in the movies, we see it in different things, and it's unclear what's informing what. But yeah, wow, you got me thinking on that one. I'm just going to leave it there to say that's a powerful point and a very helpful point, I think, for us to understand.
Yeah, we'll put it into the let's see, copy. Richard Majors and Janet Mancini Bilson are the authors of the 1993 book. It actually has the same title. Let's see, paste. Try to put this in here. But once again, I think what we're trying to do is, like, once again, raise awareness and some resources to help people understand, like, this stuff that we're going through it's not new. It's just another phase of that. But to be able to identify what this is also is key. And I think once you're able to identify certain things, it doesn't seem like it's an anomaly or something that is like far-fetched. Like, nah, this stuff is people have written books. I just put into the Facebook chat. People have written books about it. People have researched it. People are talking about it, and they're able to kind of like use that as a way of identifying if someone's going through something. Oh, you might have symptoms, or you might have indicators of X, Y, and Z. So once again, we're trying to use Rejected Stone as this platform for people to kind of get that knowledge. Or if we're wrong about something, at least you can go and research it and see where we might have had some gaps or something like that. But you go into that, what we used to do back in the day is go to a bookshelf like the one behind me. And if we wanted to know something, my dad, my mom were like, well, go to the encyclopedia.
Doc, tell them about the encyclopedia.
Oh, let me tell you, before we had the
20
cell phone,
volumes.
before we used our thumbs to kind of find out something, and scroll and look through certain things, or talk into an device like, can you find this for me, Alexa, or this for me, Siri, or this for me? No, it was like, oh, you have a question? Go to the bookshelf, and these books were humongous. Think about like a 7 or 8 year old asking a question. And it's like, instead of go ask your father and go ask your mother, go to the bookshelf and thumb through and look for whatever letter book that you had a question about, and hopefully it'd be in there. But then that's when you had that dialogue and that conversation and that family kind of connection to know a little bit more about it. And hopefully people have that same type of mentality. Like, if you don't know something, if you are curious about something, especially with this vaccine kind of approach, to make it sure we tie it all back, go and do some research. Go into this website. Go into the World Health Organization. Go to the CDC. They have updates every day, just so you can understand a little bit more about this vaccine. And like I said, you got to make the decision for yourself, but be more educated. Just find out, it's good to get information from the barbershop. It's good to get information from the corner. It's good to get information from some of the beauty shops and things like that. But in addition to, use those places as places that you could bring some information from the outside in. And then while you're in there, to say, okay, based off what we're talking about, make sure you do some fact checking. Hey, I'm gonna share a link with you all to do an airdrop. Hey, check this check this site out right here. This might help you now to kind of like ease your mind a little bit more about what's happening. So now you have a more informed decision before you just go walk in to some place to get your vaccine. So
that's absolutely right, Doc. Thank you for saying that, because I think that especially now we're in the midst of a bit of a misinformation. We're in the midst of a time where there is some confusion, or there's feelings and emotions about the vaccine out there in our community that are delicate. They're quite delicate, and the reason that they're delicate, probably a lot of our listeners and people who are watching right now know that there's been a troubled history, with the African American community in terms of medicine in general, medical interventions, invitations to participate in medical studies. Down the line, we could almost name them, and they come to mind immediately. Because of that, we're seeing a real disagreement right now. If we can take this very, very big issue kind of head on,
right.
A very big disagreement right now between folks about whether to take this vaccine or not. And I want to, just before we even do that, I also want to just, wish everyone a happy Good Friday.
Oh man.
It's a Good Friday, brother, when I'm in dialogue with you, and we're always on Friday at 6 p.m. Rejected Stone Productions, Rejected Stone Podcast. But it's just a good, it's good. It's a good thing for everybody. And I hope everyone's having a really, as we step into this holiday weekend, family weekend for a lot of people, gathering together and stuff. So that's also something to keep in mind as well. I've seen some guidelines coming out about gatherings and stuff for the Easter holiday. We found ourselves this last year, and I know a lot of people are making preparations. John Hopkins is also a real good resource. John Hopkins Medical School, I want to say, for some of these, and all I do, Doc, is I go on and I sign up, put in my email. It takes like a few minutes, five seconds or something to sign up for some of these alerts and get some of this critical data and information. But talk to us, Doc. What about this question about the vaccine? I know you're hearing it, and I know I'm hearing it. People are pushing back a little bit on this, and when they do so, they mention words like Tuskegee experiment.
Right.
I don't think it's our imagination. It's mentioned. They mention things like Henrietta Lacks. They talk about these things. What are they talking about? What do we need to know?
I think what we need to know is there's a book, really great book called Medical Apartheid. And I know my wife has it somewhere in this house that talks about the historical atrocities really that happen within the medical field. And these are facts where you actually each chapter kind of talks about the origins of how we got to where we are with whether vaccines or Planned Parenthood and some other things. And Henrietta Lacks, whose cells or T cells are still being used, I think by Johns Hopkins University to really look at cancer research. And there was actually a movie about that. I think on HBO, one of the networks that people need to look into as well. That really talks about the family of Henrietta Lacks not even getting any type of questions or what's the word I'm looking for? Advice or permission to keep using her cells, and all the things that come out of that, what's happening with her legacy and her family and stuff like that. So it's this real concern that has real historical foundations in a way that makes people more than hesitant to not take vaccines or believe what's happening in science. However, we do have scientists out there who are working very hard to make sure they save people's lives. So I think we have to be able to recognize that and be cautious and be aware of things that are happening like that, and not to kind of make sure we fall into those same kind of traps and that same type, be part of that legacy. But being that we are preparing a lot of our kids and a lot of our legacies to be a part of the medical field, we have to be able to trust that science and to trust that they have a critical eye to make sure that some of these atrocities that happened back in the day don't come into what we're having now. Put some fail safes in them, put some language out there to make sure, hey, what happened in the past, isn't happening right now, or maybe not happening the way it was before. But in the aspect of you being able to be on the other side of taking this vaccine, I think it's important that you do the research and be informed and do those things and that everyone else does before you make a purchase for anything, before you put yourself in a position where once you take it, now you have to be aware, if you do have some adverse effects, is that part of the process? And I know when I got my shot, they were like, if we find some out that you have some adverse effects, please reach out to the CDC through this app or through this process to make sure that we're making sure that you're going to be okay. So it's really about going through, having a sense of trust, but not going into anything blind. We never want anybody to do that. But I've seen one too many people. Yeah. I've seen one too many people pass away because of the fact that they're not trying to either take the precautions. One too many people dying because of just the fact that they didn't know about all the things that came along with that, and it's unfortunate that I don't know that they're not here right now. So if anything that we can do to kind of make sure that we make more informed and logical and scientific decisions, and please, once again, please do your research and find out a little bit more about it, as opposed to just hearing messaging coming from the layman and what's going around town. Right. I think it's good to hear something that's going on, but keep going a little further. Go through that virtual encyclopedia and find out. And you have every right to ask a question,
I love that you just sent everybody to the encyclopedia. In my mind, I just see that big shelf with all 16 volumes. And don't forget about the index. Right? A lot of people forget about the index, and that's another book just as big as the other book.
Oh, my God. The index was major, too.
Yeah. Go on.
Oh, no, there was another thing that I think we were talking about before, too. I don't know if people have been watching like Marvel comics on Disney Plus, but they have the Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I can see some of that, some of the Tuskegee experiment kind of conversation happening in one of the episodes. I think the second episode that they had, that there was actually a black Captain America. It wasn't called Captain America, but it talked about black soldiers being experimented on in the same way that Captain America was being experimented on to be the super soldier, and how they use a number of black soldiers, which was part of this narrative. Some black soldiers that were kind of going through how to become super soldiers. Not every soldier made it, but only the strongest survived. And he was one of these soldiers. And the gruesome part is, and this is called comics, he actually ripped the arm off of the Winter Soldier, which is the character called Bucky. And Bucky was like the right-hand man to Captain America, and if you know your Marvel comics, but they started to bring in more of these conversations about medical apartheid through the comics, and now through this comic series, the Marvel series of the Marvel universe. And I think they might be going a little bit more deeper into his character later on down the road. So I think it was just like a precursor to some other conversations and to some more of that inclusion that we're talking about. So like some of these stories or these narratives don't go unchecked. So whoever's like working on that, I definitely want to reach out to them, because I would love to have them on the show and have that conversation, kind of pick their brain about some of these things. Cause I was sitting there like glued to the TV. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I started seeing things pop up on Facebook about some of these back narratives. So I want to see if I can find, while we're talking, if I can find that source so people would know what I'm talking about. It's really a really good story.
Yeah. I feel like, folks, pretty soon we're going to get a phone number here and people can call in, because that's like a go to the phone moment. And we're growing and getting to that point, and in the meantime, shout out and love to all those watching on Facebook. Seeing your comments coming in.
Yes.
I think I don't know whether it was Winter Soldier or the Cool Pose, but you got the chat, going crazy, and maybe it was a bit of both, and I hope it was. I like that, because in art and in comic books, it's a way to, in Marvel, we're going to do a whole episode on this, by the way, coming up, but an art as a way to deal with some of these issues. And Marvel's had a real interesting, long kind of, I would call it, responsible is not the right word, but a real commitment.
Yeah.
Trying to deal with issues of race in the comic books. And we can think of so many examples. Black Panther comes to mind. And then so many other things, Stan Lee and others who worked on this, try to make sure there was, these important Black superheroes.
Yeah.
And Henrietta Lacks is a real life Black hero in my mind, who apparently had some cells. Okay, you see, this is a hard one for folks to probably deal with, I think, because for so long it was written about and it was documented supposedly that there was differences in the races, and that I don't think this should come as any surprise, certainly to any of our listeners, but to anyone, this effort, to prove supposedly the inferiority of people of color, essentially. And here you have a woman who somehow has these cells that were. I think that's a moment where America needs to look at it, to think about that. And while we're thinking about that, I also want to just throw out, there's an amazing work that I always keep forgetting to mention. But
what's that?
Deirdre Cooper Owens' Medical Bondage.
Okay.
This book has been, I believe, on the bestseller list for a while now.
Put that in there too.
Yeah, and it's a book that folks should check out.
What's the last name?
Owens, Dr. Deirdre Cooper Owens at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. And
I hope I'm spelling her name right. Sorry.
That's okay. Hey, there's so much out here, but this is a book that has, anyway, I think some folks may have known about it, and if you don't, rush out, buy it now. You can get it on Kindle, you can get it on different ABE books, a lot of places.
Right.
Your local bookstore, Barnes and Noble. This is a bestseller, and so check that out, because it gets into the history of the care, especially in particular medical care of women, and the real kind of like the testing essentially that was done on enslaved women, from my understanding. And in order to really basically to pioneer and eventually, I hope I'm not mistaken, because I'll get a call on this too, but to pioneer the science of gynecology. And this is an important topic that she goes into.
Right.
So that testing on there's this thing about, the some of the people who are considered defenseless in society often get will get will be the focus of these kinds of tests. I know, for example, that these kinds of things have been happening, and her book gives testimony to what that really has looked like for years, a silent struggle that I don't think most Americans or most people knew about.
It's just like this selective history that I think a lot of, especially these young folks, are really not having anymore. It's just like we're at a time where the covering up or the lack of recognition is really coming to a pass right now. Yeah.
That's right. So just again, why are folks saying Tuskegee experiment and stuff? I would encourage everyone to look up some of those, stories, and see for yourselves what some of that was about. But I think that
you might have to say that again. I think it got chopped up a little bit. Repeat that again. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just saying to go check that out. Tuskegee experiment. If everybody can Google that, because that's what people are. A lot of folks who I have talked to will mention that in particular as a reason why they're not sure if they want to take the vaccine. And I'm talking particularly in the African American community.
Right. Yeah, I think I found that article I was talking about too. That kind of leads to I think it said why Captain America gave the shield to the Falcon and not to the Winter Soldier. And I think it had something to do with what happened back in the day. Yeah. But let me see if I can find. I think I have that article here.
Yeah. Thanks for breaking that down, because again, that becomes an interesting way to think about this stuff. But I think I want to just, I think the feelings and maybe the anger is legitimate in some ways. One could certainly understand, because people had been lied to essentially in the past about some of these experiments. And so I think what we need is some healing. We need some serious healing around some of those past injustices that are not made up. They did take place. So that we can heal around that feeling, so that we can actually get healed in terms of the vaccine. I wouldn't want anybody, especially over certain ages, not feeling good about the vaccine. But it's a choice. It's a personal choice that everybody has to make for themselves.
Right. Yeah. And that healing process is something that is, I hope people understand that, healing doesn't always have to take place in a therapeutic kind of clinical setting. I think that's one thing we definitely want to, I think I'm getting a little choppy. That's one thing we definitely want to encourage, that people, go to their mental health provider or their health provider, health insurance provider, to look for ways of tapping into some mental health therapy. But there's some other ways of healing in regards to one being able to identify what it is that is bothering you, or what is paining you, or what is affecting you. And I think the aspect of being able to be around like-minded people who are seeing some of the same things helps you understand a little bit more about you're not the only one going through it. Yeah, and that's why I really wanted to emphasize these vaccine stories and these narratives today, to help you understand that even though we might seem like we're going through the storm right now, there's people still being totally and highly affected. There's still people passing away, and there's still people trying to pick up the pieces of not just having COVID, for those who have lost people from having COVID-19. And I think it's important that, we rally around each other and do things, have more discussions, have more of these outlets, have more of these things that you could do online that we don't have to be in person, but you can make sure that, you can do Zooms and not just learn about some other virtual spaces that you can be a part of. So it doesn't look like you have to be inside a box or something like that. So there are these other ways of us coming together and go back to some of your religious, houses. I know a lot of them do things online, but they still open up their doors virtually to make sure that, there's a word, there's a message, of understanding of praise. And, even some of the things that we come from in regards to Rejected Stone come from that spiritual, understanding that scripture and holy narratives and holy scrolls and holy sacred law, sacred books and things like that give that wisdom. Some people say, well, sometimes people say, oh, just go to God. I'm like, well, there's nothing wrong with that. But in addition to, you can also go to therapy. You can also be around folks. It shouldn't be a one-off. It should be a yes and kind of thing that we could look at. Yeah.
The only word that comes to mind is amen, because you're absolutely right. And I'm that's not something, and I'm not amening that to say, oh, I knew that already. I'm saying I think you're right, because I'm also been realizing this. I think you're absolutely right. It's and in both. And it comes down to something that I know we've always talked about on this podcast, which is self-care. I have been finding a need to really, delve into that more so, because pressures of life and in this time of a pandemic, it has squeezed us all. It has pushed us to the limit.
Yeah.
Some folk are not here anymore because of it. And those empty chairs that President Biden had talked about and at the table. Oh, it can really, really catch you up and become quite emotional once you take it all in. But there's cause for hope. It's called the vaccine. That's one good thing for some, but not for everybody, not for everybody. And I think that because I know where it's coming from as a historian, I am all too aware, in a horrifyingly sobering kind of way, about this history. And so I understand why. But a lot of people may not understand why. If they don't know Black history that well, for example, if you've never maybe had a chance to take a Black history course or read too much about it, which is as much as the movement of Black History Month. Shout out to Asala, ASALH.
Yeah,
A big shout out, and to Carter G. Woodson and Asala. Despite that movement, which has just been like a rolling thunder over the years. There's still a lot of people who don't know these things. And so that's why that's just a comic book coming up. That's why this is important, because we have to teach those who may not know about this stuff. This comes into a longer legacy of American history in terms of eugenics, in terms of the idea that we could socially engineer a society with only the people that we think or they think, who thinks, who's thinking about that, and it so the debate is an important one. It's not easily dismissed. It's not just as simple as take the vaccine at all. There are some historical things, and that's what I think we have tried to bring out today. I think hopefully, we talked about some of these things.
Yeah.
Because they're difficult things to talk about for sure.
Yeah, for real, man. And I'm also thinking about the I think one thing we've been working with a lot of talk about like who belongs and who doesn't belong and what does it look like. I think the thing I've been seeing recently, which is been affecting a lot of our Asian communities is their connection with the coronavirus, and that connection has been, I think, unfairly placed upon them with it being called the China virus, and now you see a number of people having these attacks on Asian communities. And, I'm really looking at what's happening recently in New York. But I'm thinking as things start to change and things start to and kind of open up a little bit more about like the boundaries that we have with our people getting visas and coming in, how that is going to affect, how people perceive and go about doing a business. If there's something that's not in place to educate folks about what's really going on with where the origins actually really came from, to really find out it came more from an animal than it did from a people, and, we have to really understand the racism aspect that's entwined in that as well. And the scapegoat thing has kind of connected. And I think that's what, and it's more like, let's help somebody. let's work together. Let's make sure that we're healing more and not separating more. And I think really to help people understand that, calling it the China virus is bad, is wrong, and this is my opinion, about the people who I work with or where I work, particularly this is my opinion. Just make sure I put it out there as a disclaimer. But I think it's wrong to say that. And I think it's more important to really start to build some ties, community conversations about how that's affecting those who identify as being Chinese or even Asian facing, Asian presenting, about what's going on with their ability to kind of like move through America or even the world with ease, and
that's right.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Right.
That's another chronicle that I'm seeing right now. So, shout out to those individuals who and families who lost their lives, or families who have loved ones who were lost in the Atlanta shooting, and all those who have been assaulted. Just want to make sure we show our love and compassion for those Asian communities that have lost or even had someone who's been assaulted, whether it be verbally or physically. So we stand in solidarity with those, and definitely coming from understanding of what it means to be on the other end of that hate, from Black Lives Matter and so many generations of even though we just talked about of systemic atrocities in the medical field, education, law, just keep going down the line, all the things that have been happening to people of color. But to know even with our Chinese folks and our Japanese folks, there have been these systemic aspects of the Chinese Exclusion Act, which I just learned about, the Japanese internment camps that were going on during World War II. And some of these other things. I think somebody told me about the Page Act not too long ago. So it's really becoming more aware of. It's been a lot of focus has been on the Black community and Latinx community, but there's been some things that have really happened with some other folks of color, and especially our indigenous people who continue to go through the struggles. So shout out to our indigenous folk. And but right now, what's been happening is this attack and on those folks. And I just want to make sure that, part of those vaccine chronicles and stories that we're talking about, we want to make sure that they are hopefully not having to go through much more of this, because it's definitely having an effect on a lot of folk.
Yeah. There are some good people in that fight. Mia Charlene White, who is at the New School for social research, does amazing work and is herself Black and Korean. I believe, I don't want to misstate that, and there's more to her background and identity that she, maybe would love to have her on one time to talk about some of the history, because she does a lot of that in her work. So shout out to her. And I know, because I've on her Facebook page, and you can follow her on social media, a lot of people do. She shares a lot of these chronicles, keeps us in the know. People need to know names like Yuri Kochiyama. Yuri Kochiyama, who was a Japanese American who was actually very close with Malcolm X, worked closely with him and was there actually when he was assassinated. I believe she is the sister who was cradling his head or was right there next to Sister Betty. There have been a lot of cross, connections more than we understand or talk about enough. You mentioned the Chinese Exclusion Act, and in fact, people need to know who built the railroads of this country. Who built this country. When you talk about that, you got to talk about Chinatowns, you got to talk about Koreatowns, you got to talk about Japantowns. We have to get more well-versed. And I think now we're seeing it. Now, even when COVID first was coming to, before we were on lockdown, I was hearing about Asian American attacks in Queens. I was hearing about Asian American attacks. I never had a chance to independently verify them, but in the just people talking and stuff, and the news wasn't really covering it that much at that time. And so I'm glad, that there's a folk. It's such a tragic reason though, and it hurts really bad. It hurts really bad when you see the way people are speaking to people on the subway like that, or speaking to, it's that scapegoating thing, as you said, that, someone to blame perhaps for the anger and frustration, but it's also, of course, the irresponsibility of some of the leaders over the last 4 years who have used that term, China virus and so on, after being pleaded with, begged, please stop saying that.
Right.
Someone is going to get hurt behind it. And now here we are.
Man. Yeah, bro. It's yeah, I think if anything, that might be my heaviness, it kind of come to the end of the week with realizing what others are going through. I think the ability to empathize with other folks is going to be key. And like I said, we never, I give a shout out to one of my good friends, Tanaka, that Chris Tanaka from SBU, that we had a conversation about, making sure we don't play the oppression Olympics when we start talking about, systemic oppression. Well, I got it worse than you, or you got it better than me, no, let's all kind of sit down and think about like where do we meet in the middle, and where can we kind of sit down at a table and kind of be able to kind of share stories, share narratives, but also come away with knowing that it doesn't have to be like this, right. To see what the bigger game is at stake, and really make sure that we don't, as our good friend that we had at Stony Brook for Spike Lee said, don't fall for the okie doke, let's not do that. Let's make sure we come together, So I'm not sure. Sure? Are you frozen? I think I might be frozen. Oh, you're good now. Did you hear me? Did you hear me?
I think I might still be. No.
Okay. I don't know if we just got lost. I know I was hearing myself talk, but you were real still. So what I was saying is making sure that we don't fall for the okie doke. I said Spike Lee had actually talked about that when he came to the institution we call Stony Brook, and we talked about making sure we don't fall for some of the things we have been exposed to in the past. So part of that is also we don't want to be exposed to not knowing. So please make sure we go out and get the information, do the research, ask a couple different people, but ask people who are in the know. Ask people who are experts, like doctors and researchers, and you don't have to go that far. Like if you don't want to go, you could just go right to Hulu or the Fire Stick. You can go right to your cell phone and things like that. You can find these updates through some of these news channels that you have that everybody's pretty much saying the same thing. So please make sure that you find out how to be well.
That's right, and make the decision for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'll respect anyone who differs on this question, because it's a rich debate, one that's worth having. But I think at the end of the day, I just wish everyone good health and wellness, and and to, to sojourn on. There's a long anti-vaccine debate. This isn't the first thing. You talked about HIV, brother. You opened up about 7 different episodes that we got to do, including the Marvel, including hip hop, and including even intersectionality, as and all of these things. Because if we don't have these honest conversations with each other in a clear way, with information, then we can't make an informed decision.
Yeah. Man, but brother, look, we about to wrap some things up today. I think we really were able to kind of cover some ground. I think, like I said, open up the doors for some other conversations. And for those who have been listening or will be listening, if you're listening to us on an audio aspect, please go to our Facebook page, Rejected Stone Productions or Rejected Stone Podcast, and then look into the chat to kind of look at some of those sources that we talked about in the conversation that we had. So you can kind of follow us and understand where we're coming from. But for the most part, man, we are really grateful for those who are listening and who jumped on live, especially our wonderful wives who've been blowing up the chat, as well as other people who stopped by and liked us, continue to like us, continue to follow us. And these, like I said, this is being recorded and it will be reproduced. And please let us know how we're doing. Please give us some comments. We love the comments. And if you're on YouTube or anywhere else, please just continue to subscribe and love us and like us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we need that support, and we're growing. Shout out to Facebook, who has also been a big part of our success. And we are appreciative of the support, both financially and otherwise. And so, tune in. We'll be back again with one of those 7 possible episodes. And
yes, sir.
Until then, I just thank you, my brother, for this very rich conversation as always. And I know I have been blessed by it, and we'll take a lot from it.
Oh man, we keep pressing, man. So like we say we should say it at the beginning, but we're gonna say it at the end because we want to make sure that whatever you take today, you keep moving on and you keep moving strong. So what we want to say is in Swahili, tuwende.
Tuwende, with great respect and love.
All right, and we are out of here. Until next time.
Peace.
Peace.